Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon everyone. Thank you to Hazards for actually having Action on Asbestos here to speak to you. It's a very difficult act to follow, was Scots, so I will try my best. So a little bit about the charity. Action on Asbestos was established in 1984 by men who had an asbestos condition. They wanted to establish this charity to help other people in a similar position to themselves. That was 40 years ago plus. And Action on Asbestos are continuing to see 750 plus new cases of people diagnosed with an asbestos condition every year. 150 of those cases have been diagnosed with mesothelioma, and the same amount for asbestos-related lung cancer. The services that the charity provide are second to none. We have a comprehensive welfare benefits advisory system whereby each person who's diagnosed with an asbestos condition will be allocated a benefits advisor who will maximise their income, who will provide support at appeals, who will carry out home visits where the person has a life-limiting condition, and will make sure that they maximise their income to make sure that they get every penny that they deserve because they have this condition through no fault of their own. That's just to reduce a person's isolation. And they will attend any support group from the Borders to Aberdeen. We'll have these monthly to make sure that if there's any questions, if there's anything they need done, then we'll make sure that we do that. We also would campaign on any injustice that's placed on our members. So all of you here sitting will know that it's been illegal for decades. But asbestos is embedded in our schools, our hospitals, our churches, our buildings. Any sort of older building will contain asbestos. And according to one particular study, by 2025, this year, 25,000 men and women will have died from an asbestos condition. And it's now considered one of the most deadly occupational conditions. We've said it's in homes, buildings, offices, shops, but are you aware that asbestos kills around 20 tradespersons every single week? Or that 1.8 million tradespeople continue to be exposed to asbestos? And what about schools? It's been estimated that 75% of all schools built post-war contain asbestos. Do people know that there are over 16,000 schools in Scotland alone that have asbestos in them? And there are a substantial number of younger women being diagnosed with mesothelioma, and they're teachers, and it's because asbestos is in schools. If we look at women in asbestos, the general perception is that a woman would be only diagnosed with mesothelioma if she washed her husband's overalls. We really have to get away from that myth that women only can contract a condition because of a family member or a husband or anyone in their family by washing their clothes. Women have always worked, and it's detrimental to women in their pursuit of civil damages if it's recorded somewhere that it must be by washing their husband's overall. They are entitled to pursue benefits, civil compensation in their own right. One of the things, before I go on to the next scenario, it shows how it can be so detrimental to a woman if the GP will put on the person's case notes that that person had been washing their husband's overalls, and so nothing's asked about the person's own work history. It's all about their partner's history and how they were exposed to asbestos. And if that's recorded, then when it comes to pursuing civil damages, the other side will say, but you must have told them that. It's recorded here. So it can be turned around, and it could be to the detriment of that person. This is a case study, and this is a real case study that came into us. There was a lady aged 52. She was diagnosed with the terminal condition mesothelioma. When she came into us, she told me that her GP had told her that she had been diagnosed with mesothelioma because she must have contracted it from washing her husband's overall. This was all recorded in the case notes, and the thing about it is her husband did work in the shipyards. He did have pleuroplaques, and there was an element of washing his overalls, but not that much. And nobody ever asked her about it. So when she came to Action on Asbestos, we asked her, where did you work? And she says, I was a cleaner at Cape Asbestos factory for 10 years. But nobody thought to ask that woman where she worked. And you can see now how it can be detrimental in the pursuit of civil compensation if it's recorded that the exposure must have been indirect. This woman did go on to pursue civil compensation, but it took a bit longer because of the unnecessary reports in the case notes. Staying with women here you'll see that the dark blue line is mesothelioma actual deaths, and you'll see the pale blue line, which is those who apply for industrial injuries disablement benefit. Now look at the disparity between the two of them. A lot of people here are dying of mesothelioma, but the amount of people who are claiming their basic entitlement to industrial injuries disablement benefit is much lower. And we're thinking to ourselves, is this all of these women who are told that they can't apply for this benefit because it's industry related, and possibly your exposure to asbestos was indirect? So the current situation. On the 21st of April 2022, the Working Pensions Select Committee published a report on the Health and Safety Executive's approach to managing asbestos in public buildings. It was recommended by the government that the government must commit to a strategy to remove asbestos from non-domestic public buildings by 2062. On the 21st of July 2022, the UK government issued the response refusing to commit, I can't even see what I'm writing, it's wrong glasses, commit to the 40-year deadline. What they were generally saying was that it's not going to cause that much bother, let's leave it in situ, it will be safer, unless we do a refurbishment. So they weren't going to do it at all. Action on Asbestos, in conjunction with the unions and Thomson solicitors, we believe that we want the Scottish Government to commit to a removal of asbestos from all public buildings, with the initial priority being schools. We want everybody to support this. We want people to be behind the fact that too many people are dying through no fault of their own. We need to remove asbestos. The Scottish Government they're not legally or responsible for managing and removing asbestos in public buildings. But Action on Asbestos believe that there is a moral and ethical responsibility by any government to the people of Scotland. So we must, especially our children and our grandchildren, do we really want to see them still continuing to mourn people with an asbestos condition? So the global epidemic. Asbestos is still mined in countries like South Africa, Canada, Russia, India, and so forth. According to the World Health Organization, 125 people will encounter asbestos in the workplace. And according to the International Labour Organization, 100,000 workers will die each year from asbestos-related conditions. And a conservative estimate is between 5 and 10 million people will die from asbestos. The information booklets were written by a doctor who attended our charity, but who also supported it by working there voluntary. Sadly, she died of mesothelioma and left 3 children. This one is perhaps the worst, because this shows our annual Memorial Day, which we host every year to mark Action Mesothelioma Day, and where people come along to remember all those who have died of an asbestos condition. But do we really want our grandchildren to stand here in 40 years' time and actually say, what did you actually do? What did we do to get this to stop? And this is why we need to get all the unions, all the health and safety people involved to actually lobby the government, lobby your MSP, ask them what we're going to do to have a safe, phased removal system that will remove all of this from all our Scottish schools and buildings. Thank you.